This is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to
Welcome to the Junkyard Pod. I'm Tony Festa, joined by Jackson Flickinger, and, well, Jackson, it was fun while it lasted, right?
It was fun while it lasted. Good things have to come to an end. They weren't going to go 82-0, but they can still win 81 games.
It's true. If you're not aware, the Cleveland Cavaliers have lost their first game of the season, falling 120-117 to the Boston Celtics. They now hold a forever blemished 15-1 record. Their chances at making the NBA Cup are now a little more complicated. And, well, they lose for the first time all season. Jackson, the sting of defeat, how does it feel after all this time?
It's weird. The last time we felt it, it was also at the hands of the Celtics, which, you love good, good symmetry there. But, all joking aside, I think that the Cavs, everything went about as poorly as possible for the Cavs, and they still, if a couple shots go down, we're talking, maybe your intro's a little happier.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I don't want to be that guy, but I do actually want to start with the positives, just acknowledging the run in general. I won't make it too long.
You do want to be that guy.
I
you
kind
are
of
being that guy. Okay.
15-1. 15-1 is still an incredible start to the season. Now, I only saw like a handful of people who were really upset, but listen, the Cavs, they entered this game. They've had a wild schedule. They've had no more than one day off between every single game this season. On top of that, they're down 4 rotational players in this game. Max Strus, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, and who am I forgetting?
Karis LeVert. And they all play the same position.
There you go. And that's what I was going to say. They all play the wing.
No wings.
They're all wings, and this is one of those games where you would have really liked to have at least one wing available.
0 wings the whole game. They had 48 minutes.
And Merrill out there doing his best. So I don't think it needs to be said, but again, I'm saying it. I'm being that guy. The season hasn't ended just because they lost a one-possession game to the reigning champs. But there are some things that didn't feel great in this game. Yeah, well, the point differential helped us out there. They fought really hard at the end. But, like I said, there's some things that didn't feel great, and we're going to vent a little bit. Jackson, I'll let you choose where you want to go with this, because your text made me think you might take this in a different direction than what I would assume most people are going to focus on.
Yeah, so first, I do want to actually say some positive things first, in line with, Tony. But this is more so like
be that guy.
Yeah, but this is more so like trying to do the sandwich method, because I feel like I'm a little too, blunt on the nose sometimes. So doing the sandwich method, they were outscored by 24 points from 3. Darius Garland went 2 of 233 from the field, and Donovan Mitchell, he really tried to will this team to victory, but I'm not going to sit here and say this was his best game. Jason Tatum had 30 points. The Boston Celtics, they threw their best punch, honestly. It's not like, even going back to like game 2 where the Cavs did beat the Celtics, Mitchell had a phenomenal game, probably the best game he's ever had as a Cav. The Celtics really just sucked. And I believe I said that on the pod at least 10 times, that the Celtics sucked afterwards, because they just didn't really have it. Tonight, the Celtics had it. Like, they played a very good basketball game. They played their brand of basketball. I think the Cavs did not play very well in the very beginning of the game, especially with some of how they were defending. Some of these drives was very poor. And they still had a chance to win with about 5 minutes left. If Darius Garland makes a couple more shots, they win this game. And that's a crazy thing to say, considering all the things that they had going against them. So I want to say that I think the Cavs are in the same tier as the Celtics. I think they are a title contender. Like, they're not a cute story. They're not just a regular season team. This is a team that can beat the Celtics, and win an NBA championship this year. But they can't do that if they play, like this. So,
yeah.
there's good and bad here. Like, they belong with the Celtics. There's a lot of things they have to clean up. I'll let you
just to respond to that. I agree.
Yeah.
I really do agree. I think the Celtics threw an absolute haymaker at the Cavs tonight. Like, listen, I know Cavs fans, we hate the Celtics. The Celtics suck, all this and that.
They do.
When they have their best punch, they are an absolute buzzsaw. And we saw it in the first half, especially. They couldn't miss a shot. Everyone 1 through 5 can space the floor. They can defend. They can do basically anything. They have solved basketball. The only thing they don't have is like a generational superstar, just to throw a little jab in there. Tatum and Brown, they're great, but they're not, a top 5 MVP candidate type of player.
They're fine.
But they have solved basketball. They've won the math game.
Have.
That was one thing that they kind of baited Garland and Mitchell into tonight, which is like, hey, we're gonna force you to take a bunch of difficult 2-pointers. Meanwhile, on the other end, we're just cashing in 3-pointers every possession. We're going to talk more about the details of that with Garland and Mitchell, I'm sure, but I do just want to echo what you said. There's like right now, when you look at the Eastern Conference, it's the Cavs and the Celtics. No other team is in this tier right now. Maybe New York will get in there. Maybe we'll see, Milwaukee or Philadelphia turn their season around somehow. But right now, it's the Cavs and the Celtics. I would probably say the Celtics are still the team to beat, but the Cavs are certainly contenders. And I've been pumping the brakes, so have you, on calling the Cavs legitimate contenders for the last 3 years.
I did call the Cavs a contender. Like
last
in the beginning
year?
of November. No, in the beginning of November.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I mean like big picture the last 3 years.
Yeah, no,
you and me have been holding off. So the fact that we're saying it now, yeah. now that we're saying it, not that it means that much, but just for whatever it's worth, we're officially bought in. Like I do not think this is a fluke. I don't think they're a cute start of the year story. And tonight kind of showed it because they took the best punch from arguably the best team in basketball, and they lost by 3 points despite everything going wrong for them, really.
And one thing I do want to say is, as Cavs fans, you know what it's like to be the best team in basketball and come across the cute story and just absolutely like knock them out. The Cavs did that repeatedly to the Boston Celtics, those Isaiah Thomas Boston Celtics. I remember the end of 2017, this was even before the playoffs, like they had a chance to, no, they did get home court, but they had like a game that was really important to get home court, like the end of the regular season. And the Cavs just came out and just like absolutely curb stomped them. Like it was like, oh, we have LeBron James. Oh, we have Kyrie Irving. Oh, we have Kevin Love. What are you going to do about it with Isaiah Thomas? So like we've seen that. We've seen him do that with like the Raptors. We've seen him do that with the Hawks repeatedly. So you know what it looks like when a team gets kind of tired of hearing about like this cute story or like this team that isn't really a title contending team. And that usually shows up in these games. And the Celtics, they played very hard. Like they did not, come to this game lightly. They heard all about the 15-0. They wanted to make them 15-1. It was an NBA Cup game. So there was a lot of things that, showed that the Celtics, you took their best punch and they did not like buckle and collapse. So that is like something I wanted to like underline like 10 times.
Yeah. And I agree 100%. I think, we both kind of mentioned that a lot of things went wrong for the Cavs tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and, address the elephant in the room. Darius Garland, one of the worst games of his career. All right. And he's had a great start to the year, but he really, really struggled in this game. He shot 3 of 21 from the floor. Now, you and me have both agreed that we prefer when he empties the clip and just stays aggressive. I tweeted this, so I don't want to seem like I'm just stealing my own jokes, but I think he could have left a few in the chamber tonight. I think there was a point in the game where maybe he could have backed off a little bit. He's a little too aggressive. And so really, I'll give 3 reasons for this, why he struggled tonight. The main question has always been with Garland, specifically against the Celtics, is can he beat the drop coverage? Can he beat a drop? Boston's going to show it to him, and it's up to him to make enough shots to draw them out of that. And that's where you get the bigs involved, and we'll talk about that later. But my 3 reasons here. Well, first off, actually back up real quick. Garland was shooting like 1,000,000% entering this game. So, law of averages, he crashed down to earth. But still, Boston did a great job against him. They really did. They harassed him. They put him into tough positions. In addition to that, he missed some gimmies. He missed some shots that you have to make. Those are my first 2 reasons. 1, Boston played good defense. 2, the few times where they didn't play good defense, Garland just missed. And then third, again, I mentioned this already, but he stayed aggressive all night. So when you combine all of that, you get a really nasty looking box score. Like there's really no dancing around it.
One thing I want to say is I did not have a big problem with Garland's game today. I think that there were times where I felt that even though he was taking shots, he was a little like, did some like alligator arms where like he just looked a little bit like April of 2024-esque Garland as opposed to like this season. But overall, I didn't come out of this game having big concerns about Garland. I didn't, and I'm somebody who is not afraid to, call out Garland when I do have concerns. So I didn't think that like I didn't think that like Boston was killing him or like he couldn't get free. Like he was generating decent looks. They just weren't going. And then it just kind of compounds. And Mitchell wasn't able to really like reverse that at all either. So I think it's just one of those games that like you just have bad shooting games. It wasn't like I always go back to the game against the Suns last year where he came out in the first half, had like 1 million points, was just hitting every three. And then they just completely took him away in the second half by like denying him off ball. They didn't take Garland away in this game. Garland just kind of didn't have it tonight. And that happens sometimes. And I don't think that means that Garland sucks. I don't think that means that he can't be good in this matchup. I thought he was actually pretty decent in the Celtics series last year without Mitchell. Like it was decent kind of compared to what we saw previously before that. So I don't think that this is like a situation where Garland can't be useful in the series against the Celtics. I think he just didn't have it tonight. And I wouldn't, if he had this kind of performance against the Pelicans on Wednesday, we wouldn't be like freaking out, or like by we as in like the overall Cavs discourse wouldn't be freaking out like they are because of it's this game, and probably like the national media who kind of just swoops in for games like this. They're probably going to have that conclusion, but I don't think that's a fair conclusion based off of who we've seen Garland to be this year.
And that's a really good point. And I do agree. This isn't something that gives me any major concerns about him. Bad shooting nights happen. This one was especially bad. This was, like I said, it was one of the worst shooting nights he's had in his career. The reality is, like, again, I don't think there's any major underlying concerns. So I don't think there's really much of anything interesting to take away from other than saying he's got to make shots against the drop. It's basically that simple. He needs to recognize when and where to be aggressive. I thought tonight he did ramp it up a little bit too high in the third and fourth quarter. I think maybe the offense should have moved away from him in the second half, but he did continue to press the issue, which, hey, if he hits like a couple of those pull-up threes where he gets, converts a layup or a floater, all of a sudden the game looks a little different, and we're talking way differently about how he just played. So I do like that he stayed aggressive. I'll always prefer that. But I do wish that the offense would have moved to the bigs a little bit. What did you see from the way Evan Mobley and Jared Allen played?
I think Evan was phenomenal. I do want to talk about Jared Allen, though. I think this was a absolutely horrid performance from Jared Allen. I thought this was one of the things that I really thought that the Cavs, if they had Allen and Mobley for last season's playoffs, I thought that Dave would have a real advantage inside, considering how thin Boston's center rotation is. I mean, most teams can't take advantage of that the way that the Cavs are uniquely positioned to do that. And you saw Evan Mobley do that. Every time he saw Drew Holiday, Derek White on him, he said, "This is free money. I am going to take this free money. Thank you. If you do this again, I'll keep doing this." And he was just relentlessly attacking. I know there were some things about the fourth quarter, could have got the ball more, etc., whatever. When he did get a mismatch, he just cooked. When Jared Allen got a mismatch, he did not cook. There was no cooking. He got Drew Holiday on him once in the post. I think it was like the third quarter, and he just like said, "No, thank you. I'm just gonna like throw this out." And it's like that's a matchup that, like, what the Celtics do is the Celtics, like, they play a numbers game. They know that even if they switch everything, they're not going to give up a ton of threes. They're going to make you kind of beat their mismatches. And, Drew Holiday, Derek White, they're phenomenal defenders, and they can take care of like most guys that are a little bigger than them. They can't take Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, who are near 7-footers, and Jared Allen has to punish that mismatch. That's something that he has to repeatedly do because that's a flaw that the Celtics have. That's where the numbers say, like, if you can, as Evan Mobley showed, like if you can get free 2 points, take the free 2 points. And Jared Allen wasn't able to do that. He did have some good moments near, I think, the third quarter, specifically with Craig Porter Jr., where Craig kept finding him on those
We're going to
dump
talk about
offs.
Craig.
We don't have to.
But we have to.
But like, so there were like flashes of good moments, but that's kind of not what the Cavs needed. They needed somebody who can like punish some of these mismatches. And I was really disappointed that Allen couldn't do that even when he got like the A+ positioning.
It's definitely not great that he was mostly invisible tonight. Like he just didn't really feel like he was out there. He finished with 10 points, 11 rebounds, 5 of 6 shooting, but he was a team worst -16. And part of that is Al Horford was just knocking down every 3-pointer. Like no matter what the Cavs did, it just felt like Boston had it rolling from down there. And so towards the end of the game, they closed with Mobley at the 5 and they try to go a little more, scramble on the perimeter, take away the 3-point shot. So Allen only plays 28 minutes tonight, despite like Donovan Mitchell playing 40, Evan Mobley playing almost 40. Like he was kind of the odd man out. And so that was a little rough. I wouldn't say it was a horrid game from him just because, listen, 10 and 11, you shoot 5 of 6. He could have done more.
They closed with George Niang and Ty Jerome. They were very thin. You would like to have your 4 best players on the court, but one of those 4 best players wasn't good enough to be on the court. Like he deserved to be on the bench. So that's where it's like the bar was George Niang. Allen was below that bar. Okay. Like that's not good.
Well, George played good tonight, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he did. But he did play good. Like it was a great game from George, and we probably need to have a discussion about how good George Niang has overall been. So like I don't want to punch down because we're not punching down anymore because he's actually been good. But that's where it's like, that's like the Cavs' advantage is that you have that inside interior presence. And I know Boston shooting, et cetera, whatever. Like, I know that. But if you can't leverage that advantage in a game where you're missing a whole position group, you don't really have a chance. And that's where, and like Allen was bad.
And it's fair to say that they didn't leverage that advantage because, like, to me, maybe the biggest key entering this game is that the Cavs just had to beat them up in the paint. Like, you're the bigger team. You have to win that battle. I don't know how many points they finished with in the paint. I'm sure they did win that battle because they got crushed from the 3-point line. But regardless, the point is you would have liked to see Allen put together like an 18 and 15 game rather than a 10 and 11. I wouldn't say that he was horrible, but I want to talk about Evan Mobley. I want to talk about him a little bit because he was incredible. You already mentioned it. Every time they had him mismatched, Mobley was just going to work. And I actually posted a little montage on Twitter of how the Celtics would go small against Mobley, putting Drew Holiday on him, putting Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and in the past, that was actually a worse matchup for Mobley because he would prefer to go against like Luke Cornett or Al Horford, someone who he can just blow right by. These other guys, Holiday, Tatum, Brown, they can keep up with him. And last year, he wasn't strong enough to really take advantage of that. This year, man, he looked so confident, so composed down there. There's a play where he had Drew Holiday in the post, and he doesn't mess around. Gets straight to business, one dribble, drop step. I think he dunks it and gets an N1. So, Evan Mobley was phenomenal tonight. 22 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 8 of 13 shooting from the floor. Did not take a shot in the fourth quarter. That was really frustrating. In total, Allen and Mobley took 19 shots, while Garland and Mitchell took 50. That didn't feel great. I really feel like you could have got the two bigs involved there a little more. I felt like the best things that were happening for Cleveland was one, the Craig Porter pick and roll, which we'll talk about, and two, when
We
Evan
don't
Mobley
have
had the
to.
ball. No, we have to talk about Craig
I'm
Porter
really
in a
tired.
second. Listen, I can make it quick on Craig, but just to
go.
finish off on Mobley, I really felt like the ball should have been in his hands and Donovan Mitchell towards the end, because Mitchell kind of had a rough game for the most part, but then he really turned it on in the second half and ended with like 35 points, and it looked really good. Felt a lot better than it did at the start. I would have much rather had Mitchell and Mobley just completely dominate the ball down the stretch. Instead, the Cavs kind of went to Garland a little bit there, and it just I felt frustrated for the first time this year with how Mobley was being utilized, and that hasn't been a trend this year.
One thing that was tough is that I believe it was late in the fourth quarter. Mitchell's coming off of a screen with Mobley, and he tries to do like a little bounce pass, and it's just like the worst bounce pass ever thrown.
Jaylen Brown got a hand in there.
Yeah. So things like that, I think really, like, once that happened, it felt like, well, we don't want to do that again. So I think that that's where we've seen in the past Mitchell struggled with the lobs and stuff like that. I think that's where this is probably why, like, Atkinson has played Mitchell and Mobley so much together just to kind of get that chemistry more in sync. So that's one of the things that if you're looking at areas to improve, I think that that's something where they need to still kind of get a higher level of like synergy. I think that they've improved tremendously this year compared to where they were last year, where it felt like last year, whenever they were the only two guys on the court, like the two guys of their core on the court, it felt like really bad. So I think they have improved, and they just need to keep doing that. So I did want to say that that's probably a contributing factor, and that's also why you want the ball in Garland's hands more, because he can kind of get downhill. But again, as we know, this was a horrid Garland game, so it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's actually a great point. I want to build off that too, because it comes back to, Boston's going to play a drop coverage against Darius Garland. And the reason for that is basically they're going to back off and say, we're going to make sure Allen and Mobley aren't catching any lobs, any dump off passes. And Darius, if you can beat us by taking pull up threes and hitting, runners in the lane or finishing at the rim, then we'll start to adjust. Garland wasn't able to force that adjustment. And so when you look at it, Mobley had 22 points. A lot of those felt like he created them on his own. He also had 6 assists. If it had been a good game from DG, or even just a decent game from DG, you could probably add like another 8 points of him just catching easy lobs and wide open dunks. So it was kind of, a lot of these things went hand in hand. Same thing with Mitchell. Like he struggled to beat the drop in the start. He was pressing a little bit, especially near the end. Of course, he got the shot rolling, but that's kind of why the bigs fell out of the picture there. And it felt a little bit like last year, which was frustrating, but it's not, to recap with like what we were saying at the start, I'm not concerned. I don't think that there's anything to be, pressing the panic button over this game. But do you have anything else on Mobley, or can I push the Porter agenda?
I do want one more thing on Mobley.
Yeah.
He had a terrible first 2 minutes. Like he came out, he missed a 3, and then he took another terrible 3. I think he had a bad turnover. Yeah, just a really bad start. I thought that
he had
the
a
Tim
turnover
Bontemps,
where Tatum just snuck right behind him and poked him free. It was really awkward.
I thought that the Tim Bontemps curse was back because he was in attendance. But then he just stayed being aggressive and said, "Oh no, I'm actually Evan Mobley, so this is fine." And so I just wanted to say that that's something that I really like to see, because it's like, this is kind of the same thing with Garland, but Garland, we obviously saw. He just kept digging his hole as opposed to just getting out of it. So you like to see that from a process standpoint. And this is an NBA Cup game. The Cavs really wanted to win. You saw that because they went to an 8-man rotation, etc. But, it's still a regular season game. It's still November. The matchup that's going to matter with the Celtics is going to be in May. So I think that this was a good learning experience from that perspective.
Yeah. And you know what? We talk so much about Mobley's offense. Let's also acknowledge he was incredible on defense. I know the Celtics put up 120, but like Mobley was so good defensively. There was just stretches of the game where he was disrupting everything. The Cavs actually held Boston under 30 points in every single quarter, except for the second where they went off for 39. But they played good defense really throughout this game. Boston was just hitting some incredible shots, and Mobley, of course, was leading the way there defensively. And I also want to say for Darius, really bad offensive game. Thought he played fantastic on defense, especially in those moments where he was matched. Fantastic. Well,
think
when he was matched against
well.
Tatum
He
and
played well.
Brown,
Yeah.
the matchups there, especially in the second half, there was a stretch where they just went at him a couple times, and he looked so strong and physical staying in front of them. I thought he did a great job. He should have drawn an offensive foul on Tatum with that shove, I think in the third or fourth quarter. But I thought Darius played a pretty good game defensively, so that was nice to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, like we sometimes overlook that. Like, yeah, also Evan Mobley looked like a defensive player of the year player tonight.
And he had what's his name? He was like guarding Brown and Tatum. Niang was guarding Brown and Tatum on like an island. So
yeah,
Mobley had to deal with that. So like, he was
making up for a lot.
Game. I think he did a really good job sometimes. Like when the defense did break down, you can't really rotate from the corners like you would normally do because that's a DC 3 points for the Celtics. And like Mobley was just phenomenal in those little 2-on-1 situations. Something that I think Allen was pretty bad with. So that's just another thing to, another thing to praise Mobley for, another shot to take at Allen. That's how today's going.
Well, here we go. Let's wrap this up by praising Craig Porter, because I'm going to be serious right now. I'm not exaggerating. I'll have to look at some of his games from last year to clarify. I think this is the best game he's ever played in a Cavs uniform. I think he was great. And let me explain why. Okay. First off, last year when he had that run, it was a little bit like, hey, no one knows who Craig Porter is. We don't know what he's capable. Like, do we guard him on the 3-point line? Do we close out? We're not sure. And he was really making teams pay for that. Since, All-Star break last year, teams have dropped on him. Things have gotten bad. Craig Porter Island has seen just horrendous weather. They've been right in the middle of the hurricane season. But tonight, it started off bad. I was ready to tweet that the Craig Porter experience needs to end. But then he knocks down a 3-pointer. And then I believe he knocked down another 3-pointer. And then in the second half, Kenny Atkinson did something that was just so refreshing to see. And it was like a light bulb moment.
He benched Jared Allen?
Well, I was thinking of something else. But what the Celtics did is they had Keita, their backup center, guarding Craig Porter, because they're like, well, he's not a threat to shoot, so we can have you, play in the paint, just ignore him. Kenny Atkinson was like, all right, well, we're going to have Craig Porter set just 100 pick and rolls this quarter. And Keita, you're going to have to defend on an island. And if you don't, Porter's going to slip right into the short roll, catch it. He had a couple dunks off of that. He had a couple drop-off passes to Allen and Mobley. And it was like, it was the Bruce Brown moment. It was the Derek White moment where it's, if you're not going to guard the guy, have him set screens, because now you're forcing that defender to do things. And Keita obviously is an easier target to pick on, kind of, an awkward fumbling big, but the Cavs just went at him in that third quarter run. And I really like that Kenny found something and just kept going to it over and over and over again until Boston took him out of the game. So I think Craig, the fact, the 3-point shooting, the pull-up shooting, that's what he needs to do if he's going to be an NBA player. He was 3 of 3 tonight. He actually hit 3 of them. 6 of 8 from the floor, 15 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. He was a little rough on defense. The teams will still just put their body into him. He could use some muscle or just some aggressiveness there. He's still young, but yeah, offensively, this was the best game he's played, I think. Does that mean he's going to be in the rotation? Probably not. But this was a really, really reassuring sign to see that, he's capable, at least some nights, of doing what he needs to do to be an NBA player.
I think the screen setting was really good. There was one play where they had Horford on him, and he set a screen for Mitchell, and he set a firm enough screen, and Horford just laid way back that Mitchell was able to just dribble into a pull-up 3 that he made. So plays like that, it's setting screens is, I think, more difficult than I feel like people think it is. You have to actually be there and make sure the guy doesn't get across. And I think he did a really good job with those screens. And that's probably not something he's done a whole lot in his lifetime as a basketball player. So him just kind of stepping into that role was really cool. I think one of the first times I did that, he kind of caught the ball on the roll, was little hesitant. Do I go up with this? What do I do with it? And then after that, he was just oh, I can just attack. This is what I'm best at. So really good stuff from Craig Porter Jr. As much as it, hurts my credibility. But no, it was a great game from Craig, and that's what you want to see, him being able to like use his physicality and like his speed and his passing to really, open up things for himself and others. And he did that. I don't know how replicable it is on like a game to game basis. I wouldn't say like this is his new role. I think this is just kind of like the matchup really called for it. But the more tools that you have in the toolbox, the better of a coach, like the more things you can do as a coach, and the more things you can do as a player means that they can put you on the floor in more situations. So it was a really good showing from Craig. And I think this 3-point shooting, he seems to be somebody who, like, when he gets confident and he has it going, he just has it. And when he doesn't have it, it's like the exact opposite, obviously.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say like he made 3 threes today. He's a 3-point shooter now. So I think that if
it's a long-term development thing.
Yeah, the defense is still the thing that's like, he needs to be like if he was a good defender, he would be like a rotation player, even with how bad his shot is. But that's the issue for me.
Yeah, the two things that he needs to do is, one, he needs to become like a at least break-even defender, and two, he needs to continue to develop that 3-point shot. His role as a screener probably won't be, like you said, as replicable when he's not being defended by like a backup big who really probably shouldn't be on the floor. Like if a guard is just defending him, they probably don't do that with as much success. But regardless, it was a really feel-good game from Craig Porter.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts here as we wrap up? Cavs streak is over. I thought they played, I mean, things went wrong. A lot of things went wrong, but all things considered, they played a good enough game to be within 3 points of one hell of a team in Boston.
I think this is one of those things where it was like a measuring stick game, and you saw that the Cavs are close, but you also see that there's a lot of things that they can improve on. I think the best version of the Cavs, I think they can beat the Celtics. The best version of the Cavs can do that. The C- version of the Cavs, whatever version of the Cavs you want to give what we saw on Tuesday, that team can't beat the Celtics, but that's okay. A road game like this is tough. I think they proved a lot of things. I think you see the areas that they need to improve, and it's hard not to be optimistic after that game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's hard to find many things to complain about as Cavs fans right now, but one loss, I guess, that gives you something to gripe about. That's going to do it for this episode of the Junkyard Pod. Listen, the streak is over, but the season isn't. I want to thank everyone who's been tuning in to listen to us during this run, and I hope you all stick around as we move throughout the rest of the season. There's plenty of great basketball left to play, and with all that being said, go Cavs.
I agree. Go Cavs. Brian, what did you think of the green court?